Welcome back to INSyed. I'm Syed, and every week I take real academic research and bring it closer to the life you're actually living. Like a journal entry that did its homework, let's take a peek inside. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. I came across this quote in religious literature. It carried with it a feeling I couldn't describe, like an invisible string that wrapped itself around my neck. I felt as if I was choking. So I wrote it down in my notes and chose to ruminate on it. As I continued on with my life, that quote kept coming back to me, that invisible string tightening itself more and more. That's when I chose to do the research. I wanted to know what was happening. Then I came across an article that opened my eyes. That string, the one that had been tightening around my neck, wasn't doing it on its own. It was my own hands that were tightening it, and it was I that needed to let go. I had fallen from guilt to shame. The difference between the two matters. When we say we're guilty, we attribute it to an action, something we've already done. To be guilty of breaking something or saying something we shouldn't have, it highlights behavior, while shame points to the person, holistically. It blankets us in ridicule and resentment to ourselves. Shame makes us the bad person. By choosing to point these feelings to our actions instead of our person, we can realize that we aren't the villain of our story. We're the ones who can create change, and that can only begin by choosing self forgiveness. Researchers did a meta analysis, a study that combines data from multiple independent studies, and found a strong positive correlation between self forgiveness and psychological well being. By choosing to forgive ourselves, we end up happier and mentally healthier. To put it to scale, this analysis involved 65 different samples and nearly 18,000 participants. 18,000 people, each with their own individual lives, all of whom strengthened their psychological well being, all because they chose self forgiveness. When I saw these numbers, I began to wonder, was self forgiveness all I really needed? We'll take a short break here. Sit with that for a moment. Welcome back. On a personal note, I have a habit of breaking things. A few weeks ago, I broke my camera, and it genuinely upset me. It was an old Samsung camera phone, so getting it fixed was out of the question. All I could do was to try and replace it. I kept thinking to myself, why am I so careless? How could I be so dumb? Over time, it waned on me. It started off with blaming myself for the broken camera, then I began blaming myself over my poor sleep schedule. It started off material, then it turned to character. I began to antagonize myself. Then came the quote and realization. I had made myself, in my eyes, irredeemable, when in reality, change was in the palm of my hands. All I had to do was forgive myself. One may worry that self forgiveness gives us a reason to make excuses, that it might make us disengage or enable us to repeat wrongdoing. But these studies suggest that self forgiveness strengthens our drive for self improvement. So, to bring it back to what we shared in the beginning, resentment is like drinking poison and hoping that it'll kill your enemies. Sometimes that enemy is closer than you'd expect. It may be the person you see in the mirror every morning. Let self forgiveness be the antidote. That quote was never just about inviting peace with others, it was also about making peace with ourselves. Write down one thing you've been holding back against yourself. Then ask, would you forgive someone you love for the same thing? And that brings us to the end of this week's INSyed. Thank you for spending your time here. If something today stayed with you, the best way you can support is to share it with someone it may reach. You can also follow the show wherever you listen. And if you have a moment, leaving a review genuinely helps more people find us. Until next week, remember that there's always more inside.